Hello and welcome to Golden Goal. Unfortunately, this has come a day late due to technicalities, and we are very sorry for that. Due to this, there won't be any live show today. It will just be myself and some videos. But before we get into it, welcome to our quarterfinal and last 16 review and preview. So I'm going to first off go with the quarterfinals, run them off as quickly as we can, and then we'll go into the knockout stages for the last quarterfinals. So we will start with Netherlands taking on the US in the first game. It was which finished. Hold on, God's sake, it finished 3-1. In the end, Memphis Depay, Daley Blind, Denzel Dumfries getting it done for the Dutch, while Haji Wright scoring one back for the US, but it was too little too late. The Netherlands now go through and will face the winner of this game again. The winner of the next game, Argentina versus Australia. Argentina won that game 2-1. The big talking point of that one was Lionel Messi finally getting his knockout goal. Yes, that's right. Before this tournament, Lionel Messi had not scored in a World Cup knockout stage. So him getting his first goal was huge for him, huge for Argentina as a whole. Julian Alvarez also added to Argentina to make sure they got across the line, but it wasn't easy. Endo Fernandez ended up scoring an own goal for Australia to give them a little bit of hope, but it just wasn't enough. In our next game, Japan took on Croatia. It ended, I don't know why it's saying 1-1, but it actually finished 0-0 from what no, it did finish what a 1-0, sorry. Who's so unprofessional of me, excuse me. Who scored that? So there we go. Japan. Daisen Maeda scored for them, opening the scoring just before the half-time whistle. And that was huge for Japan. They were looking so forward to going through, only for Ivan Perisic to once again pop up in the 55th minute, and then nothing really happened. Game went to extra time. Nothing really happened. So the game ended up going to penalties. And unfortunately, Japan were not able to beat Croatia on penalties. We'll get the thoughts of Hubert towards this when we talk about the Croatia game against the next opponent, which is Brazil. Brazil absolutely dominated this game. Vinicius Jr., Neymar, Richarlison, and Lucas Paqueta scoring within the first 40 minutes. It could have been so much more, but they just put their foot on the brake. They knew that the job was done, and that was that. And South Korea managed to pull one back through Pike Song-ho, and that was that. Brazil showing a real dominant display and a reason why they are favourites. Now, the current favourites at the moment, France, Olivier Giroud equalising the men's record and actually surpassing it Thierry Henry with 51 goals. But it is not the women's record. The women's record actually stands at 86 goals, and that is Eugenie Le Sommer. So a bit of a way for Olivier Giroud to go, but it'll be interesting because has he still got the legs in him to carry on for the next couple of years? We'll wait and see. Kylian Mbappe got his brace in this one in the 74th and 91st minute. And then Robert Lewandowski added to his first World Cup goal with a last-minute penalty, which had to be retaken because I believe it was a bit of an odd one. We didn't really know what was going on with. I think it was given eventually in the end because Lloris was off his line. When actually, I think the French players were actually in the box when the penalty was taken. So it could have been one of those two reasons. But Poland exit out of this stage. They got a bit further than they would have thought, but it is a tough task going up against the current world champions, that's for sure. And then we come to England after. Let's just bite the bullet on this one. Jordan Henderson opened the scoring on 39 minutes. It took a long time for England to actually finally break Senegal down. And I think Senegal will look at that display, that first half an hour, say that they did really well. They had a lot to show for it, but they didn't get that goal. And that would have been the decisive factor. Harry Kane then added to that in the 3rd minute of extra time in the first half. And then Bukayo Saka added to that in the 57th minute. England will play France in that quarter-final. Now then, Morocco facing off against Spain in that knockout stage, last 16. You weren't expecting it, and when some people were laughing about Spain not being not crucial, critical in front of goal, and ultimately Gary Neville was laughed about. He talked about it. It seems like all the goals was used up in that first game against Costa Rica. That's 7-0 thrashing. But fair play to Morocco. Morocco ended up winning that game on penalties. This was actually, funny enough, the first time that both teams in the knockout stages haven't conceded a goal. Spain now have consistently not won a knockout stage since they won the World Cup in 2010. Very interesting stat there. But from Morocco, also a huge stat for them. First time that African team has won a knockout group stage since Ghana. And on top of that, it's the first time they've won a team from Africa have also won a penalty shootout against a European opposition. So it's a huge group step, huge step for Morocco there. Their opponents will be Portugal, who let's just call it right. They just steamrolled Switzerland. I think Switzerland were anticipating Ronaldo to take part for whatever reason. Ronaldo was named on the bench because of attitude or whatever you like to say. It was his replacement, Gonzalo Ramos, who scored a hat-trick. Nicola Pepe plays for Ivory Coast, not Portugal. Everyone will remember Pepe. He added on to the score sheet. And then Rafael Guerrero and Rafael Leao also added to the score sheet. The only consolation was Manuel Akanji for Switzerland, which means my team in sweepstake for our competition has run its course. Yes, it will be an interesting one to see Switzerland versus Morocco versus Portugal. But we will now have our first take, which will be Hubert talking about
Croatia versus Brazil then for the...
Thank you very much, Hubert. Croatia versus Brazil. So this is Hubert's thoughts on everything to do with this game. I will go through after what he's talked about and give my thoughts on that.
This game. So realistically, looking at this game, anyone's prediction isn't going to be too different from the expected, really. You've got Croatia on one hand, who are extremely boring. Sorry to say, but as the stat says, I think 7 out of their last 8 knockout games went to extra time. So it's one of these things where I don't know. Will they frustrate Brazil and make them work for it? Yeah, probably they will, I imagine. But you have to look at Brazil then, and they've got plenty of talent there. You've got Neymar. If his ego doesn't get in the way, you've got Neymar, who's a talented footballer, but unfortunately he's got a big ego. You've got Richarlison, very good player, has provided some sensational goals. Again, cheating at times and a bit ratty, but realistically, another talented player. You've got Rafinha, who's not been on the ball for me. And you've got, of course, people like Vinicius Jr. You've got Dani Alves, who maybe people question on the pitch, but he's a man that delivers a lot outside of it as well. So you've got the team bursting with talent. Can they be defeated? Of course they can. You know, Belgium proved it in 2018. Germany proved it in 2014. You just have to get them on the right day, and I think today's not the day for Croatia, really. Brazil are the type of teams also who will, try to get the game done within the first 36 minutes and bore everyone to death for the rest of the game. But I don't know if it'll be that easy with Croatia. It won't be as easy as South Korea, but it all depends. Can I see a shock in this fixture? Honestly, no. I'm going to say a win for Brazil here. It's not going to be as easy as South Korea, but it's not going to be massively difficult either. So I'm going to say 3-1 to Brazil. And I'm hoping for Croatia and, everyone else really, that this doesn't have to go to extra time. Not another game to Croatia's stat. So yes, 3-1 to Brazil for me for this one. Next game we've got.
So yes, as Hubert has rightly mentioned there, Croatia have now gone into extra time in 7 of their last 8 knockout stages. The worrying stat seems to be, because of that, Croatia seem to be the team that are willing to play that dull, boring football and then just get to extra time or penalties and see if they could and nick it that way. If I'm honest, Croatia, this team, you look at some of the players that they have, and there's some outstanding players that haven't even been called up to Croatia, and it's a real shame because they deserve to be, and they're not there. Croatia don't have that spice that Brazil do, and for me, Brazil, it's not just the salsa and things like that. You've got the Neymar ingredient that Hubert talks about. With that in mind, it's also about trying to fit everything together. And the way you hear other people talk about Brazil, it's not. It might have been in 2014, the Neymar show. It now seems to be come 8 years later that it's not just the Neymar show. It's the Vinicius Jr., the Richarlison, the Martinelli, there's so many different beats that the Samba boys do drum to now, and there's no way Croatia can compete. If I'm honest, I think it's going to be more than 3. I reckon that it could be 4 or 5. I reckon Brazil will they'll see what Croatia are doing, and what they'll do is they'll just let him play for about 10 minutes, and then they'll just hit him. We are now 10 minutes away from kickoff as things stand from this game. So we shall carry on with Netherlands versus Argentina. This one's the tasty one at 7 o'clock kickoff.
Netherlands, Argentina, and it could be a tasty fixture. The last time I've seen these teams play together, I think in a competitive fixture, it went to penalties at 0-0. So let's hope we're going to get something a bit more interesting. Here's how I see this game. So you've got Netherlands, who have been dubbed dull throughout this competition. But, despite that, still managed to pull out results to get them to where they are now. They struggled to get to a good winning position against the USA, but once they did, they held on and beat them in the group. I mean, you can argue that their big challenges were Ecuador and Senegal, who they beat Senegal pretty well. They beat Qatar, struggled against Ecuador, but, despite that, still managed pretty well. And then you've got Argentina, who without Lionel Messi can be easily beaten, I think. But obviously Messi will be playing probably, unless something really happened that we've not been told about. Do I think Netherlands can cause an upset? I would certainly like to, and if there is a fixture where an upset could be potentially caused, it could be this one. If Messi's the only one player that Argentina have that will win them the game, I think. We've seen this enough times. We've seen this against Australia, where if Messi wasn't there, you wouldn't bank on... You could easily bank on Aussies causing an upset, but that didn't happen. So let's hope that the Orange Army will dump out Argentina of this competition. I'm going to say 2-1 win to the Netherlands in extra time for this one. It's going to be a long one, but hopefully Netherlands can carry on the flag for Europe in this competition. So yes, 2-1 Netherlands, extra time against Argentina. Portugal.
Okay, so very interesting there from Hubert, and I'm sitting on the fence on this one because Argentina, again, we haven't really seen that defense be exposed as much as we thought we would. There are a few gems in there, but it just seems that no one's really exposed them. And the problem with the Netherlands at the moment is that we don't know if they're good enough attacking wise. But then again, we've got the team player like Memphis Depay, who will hit you on the break. I have a huge soft spot after the Euros here with the women's this summer, because the Dutch supporters, they go crazy. They go absolutely crazy. They go full out. You'll see them out in carrots. You'll see them out in like a suit of orange. You'll see them out dressed as orange as possible. And maybe that might be the difference. Is the orange team there, or are they taking, or is someone else taking their spot? In that case, then maybe the fans might be the deciding factor for this one. The problem is a lot of people who are backing Argentina are backing on Messi, and Messi, yes, he scored his first knockout goal in a World Cup, but don't count them out. There's going to be someone that's going to end up scoring that isn't Messi. It's difficult. I think I'm in the same boat as Hubert. I don't know why. I think it's going to end up with Netherlands being knocked out. But then again, if it is being knocked out, does it go to extra time? Does it go to penalties? It's difficult. I'll just say 1-0 Argentina for the moment, because it is difficult and we need to carry on with Hubert talking about Portugal versus Morocco.
Morocco. Yes, 3:00 tomorrow. England's potential opponents. It's going to be interesting. So it's one of these games where, obviously, ideally, I'd like to see crybaby that is Cristiano Ronaldo out of this competition. But the problem is, if Ronaldo doesn't play, Portugal are actually very enjoyable to watch. So it's a tricky one, really. When it comes to Morocco, they've done a very good job to get as far as they did. They have been a very good surprise package. And you can't deny them that. You can't deny them being this team that is capable of causing an upset, and they managed to beat Belgium. Granted, Belgium weren't exactly in fantastic form. They drew with Croatia. I've mentioned enough about Croatia in the preview of their game against Brazil, and of course Canada, who everyone's beaten in the World Cup, even a disappointing Belgium. And of course there was that game against Spain, which went into extra time at 0-0 and went into penalties at 0-0. Certainly one of the most boring game of the tournament. Do I think Morocco can cause an upset against Portugal? Ghana nearly caused an upset. South Korea beat Portugal reserves. Look, it's safe to say that Morocco are going to be major underdogs in this. From a potential England's perspective, if England obviously go through against France, I think we would all rather than play Morocco than Portugal. Portugal have a lot more pedigree on there, and I think Morocco will be a much tougher opponent than Switzerland was. It's a hard prediction because I really would like to have Morocco go through because it would be good for them to carry on. But I think every underdog's journey is going to end somewhere, and I think Portugal will have too much for Morocco. Don't get me wrong, I'd like to see a tight one, so I'm going to go, well, tight-ish. I'm going to go 4-2 to Portugal. I want an interesting thriller. I want Morocco to give Portugal a headache at least. If Morocco can't knock them out, at least give them a bit of a headache. Make them work for it. I struggle to see any other result, unfortunately. But if Morocco surprise me, I will be a very happy man. But I have to go 4-2 to Portugal. Hopefully no goals for Ronaldo. More goals for, what's his name? For Ramos. Ramos? Yeah. I think that's his name. Gonzalo Ramos? Something like that. The chap that scored the hat-trick against Switzerland. Fantastic player. And it would be interesting to see he's put his name out there. I'd like to see him get more goals. No goals for Ronaldo, please. Thank you.
So, just before the last game then, Morocco-Portugal, again, as Hubert said, it's difficult to predict what's going to happen. I'm going to be honest, I think we all know Portugal's going through. It would be nice if Morocco were able to carry it on, but I do not think that they've got the ability to do what they did against Spain and take it all the way. If it's a moment of magic, it might be that they keep it 0-0 as tight as possible, and then a Hakim Ziyech comes up and scores the winning goal, if that was the case. But I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. I'm going to go 2-0 for Portugal. And our last game is England versus France. Hubert, take it away.
Go on, the big game, of course, of the weekend. England versus France. England, who many people have been moaning about, being negative about, versus the world champions. You can't really get any more challenging than that out of the possibilities. I mean, a lot of people say they had England going out in the quarterfinal stage, and considering France awaits, yeah, you can see where they were coming from. Now, I've heard many people, including Rio Ferdinand, say, stop Mbappe and you stop France. Now, technically, that's true along some lines, but I think it's not as bad as stop Messi, you stop Argentina. I think it's nowhere near that bad. I think there's plenty of French talent still. Okay, they're missing Kante, Pogba, and Nkunku, Benzema, sure, and is Kimpembe, I think he's out as well. So there's a lot missing, but there's a lot still there, I think, which you have to acknowledge. You've got, Antoine Griezmann, you've got Giroud, and of course Mbappe. That strike force is not one to be underestimated. And of course, you do have still some decent French defence. You do have Lloris, who, when he plays for France, seems to play a lot better than he does for Spurs. There was some almost very close howlers from Lloris in this competition, but France is going to be a tough one. Do I think England will win? Of course I do think England could win. Do I think they will? I'm not sure. Honestly, it's going to have to be a very different England team. We'll need to see a better performance than we had against Senegal. That 35 minutes against Senegal, if we do that against France, France will be 2-0 up in that 35-minute period. If there needs to be a sharper team out there, because France are a very different opponent, and England will have to be on their best performance. They have to bring their best game to Qatar tomorrow, and nothing else will do. It's as simple as. Will it go to extra time? Yeah, probably. I imagine go to extra time at 1-1. Do I think it will go to penalties? Well, you'd say I hope not, but I've seen Kylian Mbappe miss a penalty against Switzerland, which was joyful. So I'm gonna I'm gonna push the boat out. I'm gonna go England to win on penalties. It ain't gonna be easy, but if England want to prove all the negative, miserable moaners wrong, they need to go out there and they need to take the game to the world champions. And what better way to do that than win the tie and go through to play either Morocco or Portugal and be in the semi-finals of the World Cup for 2 consecutive times. You can't get any better than that. Lose against France? I don't think it's that bad, to be honest, to go out to the world champions. I think it's all about how England play against France. Because if they go out fighting, that's fair enough. But if France will get a massive thrashing up for provide England a massive thrashing, then, well, you have to say it's going to be embarrassing. So hopefully England will be bringing the A game to France in Qatar. England to win on penalties. I know, I'm not saying it's coming home just yet. We need to beat France first. Anyone that's saying it's coming home, you're deluded. Give it time.
Okay, so thank you, Hubert. So, with that in mind, it's a tough game to call. So, what I will do is I will have a look at. There we go. So, games against France, we have won 17 times, 5 times drawn, and 9 times lost. Only the last time that we beat France in a competition was the 1982 FIFA World Cup held in Mexico. So a long time coming. That day it was 3-1. But just to go into our recent fixtures, I'll do our last 5. We've played them in an international friendly 3 times, lost them 1-0, 2-1, and 3-2. We draw against them in the 2012 European Championships 1-1, and then England won in 2015 with a 2-0 victory. So we haven't played France in a long time, and that's the problem. When we haven't played a team for a long time, we can't get used to how they play. Though we know a number of those players because they play in the Champions League or they're playing over in our league, or we might see a little bit of them. This French team, it's young, it's exciting, but also you have the experience of an Antoine Griezmann, you've got Olivier Giroud in that. Stop Mbappe, well, you've got other people there as well. Yes, they've got many people injured and they do have their own problems, but I have a feeling it is true that no one has really tested Lloris this tournament. So it's going to be a case of attack versus defense and who comes out on top. Just from me personally, I think England, this is as far as England are going to go, and that's it. I think it's going to be. I have a feeling it could be 3-0 France, if I'm honest. But that's all from us on Golden Goal. Thank you for tuning in. It will be an exciting one. The next game, the next lot we will be covering will be the review and preview of the semi-finals and the quarterfinals. But on top of that, we are on Discord, we have Twitter, we have a Facebook group, we have a WhatsApp app group as well. Everyone is welcome. So thank you so much for joining in today. Let us know in the comments and about your predictions for this. Apologies for the delay, but we hope to see you all soon. Thank you so much for joining in, and see you on the next one. Goodbye. Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe as well before I forget. Bye.